Hey everyone, welcome back to Daily Standup. So this is the first new setup of our stand-up series, so hopefully this is better quality. I'm basically filming with my iPhone, and I have a new camera, and I just removed the background and I'm just overlaying myself over the display. So hopefully this is better, but let's jump right into the board. I have to update a lot of the stuff this time, and I have to start out with, I have to update this in progress ticket. So this is our add consumer to consume the notifications queue messages, which we have done, and that's the notifications that you saw on the previous video that show up on the front end to say, the engine overheated or it's overheating. So this one's actually done. So we need to make real-time notifications. I use Signal R to handle the real-time displaying of notifications. So I think we're pretty much done with this. So let's go ahead and move this to done. And I'm really behind. So we have actually done our architecture and design meeting. That was the write-up that I did, and I kind of showed you the current state of the architecture. That one also included the Python microservice that we haven't yet fully made, but we incorporated into the architecture drawings. So this one also is done technically, and let's go ahead and jump into this one too. I like my why. We need an educated decision. So review solutions proposed in prototype 1 and 2, and then make a decision about which one we want to use. I guess we didn't do that as much. I more or less just made a write-up of what we have currently. So let's go ahead and I tell you what, I'm going to move this to done as well, just because I want to move things to done. We got to clear up this board a little bit. So I think we are all set. These I haven't touched yet, and I'm actually going to create a new ticket. So this is going to be Rust, and then I need to add endpoints to get engine data. So what I mean by this is what, why, and done when. So the what for this is going to be, I want to add a Rust API, or an API to my Rust microservice that will allow me to query all the engine data that has basically come through that service. So I don't know exactly to what extent I'm going to expose that data, but I want to make an endpoint that will basically allow me to call that microservice and basically export the particular engine data that hit the threshold, right? So if I saw that a notification was sent for engine overheating, I want to know what the characteristics of the engine were at that exact moment in time. So I'm going to add logic into my Rust microservice for if that temperature is exceeded, or that temperature exceeds the threshold, I want to store that data maybe in some table or somewhere, and then I want to have my endpoint query that table and then return that back to me. So hopefully that makes sense. Add an API to my Rust microservice to allow me to query engine data. And if I can spell here, microservice. So that's the short of it, but I want to basically a get endpoint to retrieve engine data for any data point that exceeded the temperature threshold. Okay, so I think that makes sense. The why is we need to see the exact snapshot of the engine data at the point of failure or beginning of failure. So this is critical because we need to see in real time what the characteristics of the engine were that caused the temperature to overheat passed our allowed tolerance, or what characteristics of the engine led it to start overheating. So if we see that maybe our RPMs are a little bit too high, we can adjust that based on our real, point in time data. And the reason I want to add an API into my Rust microservice is mainly just because I want to keep the responsibility of all the logic for the temperature and engine analysis inside of the Rust microservice. So I think that it should be Rust's responsibility to provide me that information, just because it's already looking at it and performing, logical operations on the data that's coming into it. That's really the only reason. The other reason, apart from the project, is I just want to get experience writing APIs in Rust. So that's another reason. So I guess honestly, I'm going to put that on the ticket. I want to learn how to make REST APIs in Rust. Honestly, that should be reason enough, because that's a really good thing, I think, to learn, in my opinion. Done when I can hit the endpoint and get data. This one's gonna be a big ticket. This is a big story, because there's a couple parts to this, right? So this is a 5-pointer for sure. This might be, I might even put this as an 8-pointer, to be honest with you. Obviously it should be broken down if it's that big, but it's just me, right? So I'm just gonna leave it at that, just to reflect the true scale of this ticket. There's a couple things here that make it as big as it is. There has to be data storage somewhere. That can be in the form of a table. That can be in some kind of queue. That can be any number of things. Honestly, to avoid the table, so I might need a table, because I was originally going to say a queue, because I only really need to get the data, but I want to be able to get the data more than once, right? So once you get it from the queue, it's out of the queue. So if I keep it in a table, then I can just retrieve what's in the table, so that I can just write. I think I might make a table to do this. So I already have a MySQL server running, so I might just add a table to that, connect my Rust service to my MySQL instance, and then just query that table. So it should be just make a table, write the SQL for it, and write an endpoint to execute that SQL. So we can just add that in here. So create new table to hold the engine data, and then write SQL to query table, add endpoints to execute the SQL. Okay, that should be fine. But again, that's all new to me in Rust, so I don't know how long that's going to take me. I think that's it. Yeah. I mean, there's obviously another piece, right? I have to post the data to that table at some point, which I guess, post data to table upon temperature, upon exceeded temperature threshold. So that's another piece. I can make that its own ticket, but honestly, I might come back later and break this down, but not in the stand-up here. So I think that's enough for me to start working on this, and this is what I want to do next, just because I'm real interested to do that. So I'm going to move that right over to in progress, and we're going to start working on that almost immediately. Hopefully that makes sense, the what I'm trying to accomplish in this ticket. I think it's going to be worthwhile, just because it'll get us ability to see all the characteristics of the engine. So currently we're limited to just seeing what the temperature was, but we don't know what the other characteristics of the engine were. We don't know the RPM. We don't know any of the theoretical exhaust limits or intake limits once we wire those in. But once that data becomes real and I actually do implement that logic of it, this service is going to be in place to let us see what that is, right? So if we know our engine is running lean and the temperatures are spiking and the RPMs are way too high because it's getting too much air, we know we can change that because that we can query that data and see what's happening. So I think it's going to be real valuable as a part, I think it's going to be a real valuable piece of the system. So I think we need to add it somewhere. And again, I can add this in .NET and query the table that way. But honestly, I really want to add it in Rust to see how that works for us. But yeah, honestly, I think that's it. You can kind of see here that I've just been like, whoops, that's not my, that's my front end project. All right, so this is the Rust project that I've been working on. This is just like I think I showed you in the last video, but this is like a real rudimentary like tutorial API, right? So a couple endpoints, and then it just starts your HTTP server. But honestly, it's super cool that like this is all the code you need in Rust to get started and to actually make a real endpoint that I can call just running locally. So that's super powerful. I mean, that's real neat. So I don't honestly, like, if I was going to add this, like just to write some like really rough pseudocode, it would just be something like, and you're going to see how bad I am at writing Rust here in a second. Get engine, I don't know, get engine data or something. It's kind of long, but what is async function, get engine return, and then HTTP response of type OK. I like that it's like generally the same. Like you still get like the OK syntax you would in .NET, and then the body is just obviously like, we're gonna return fake data. So it's kind of just like, do I get my? There we go. I always forget the key for the comments. I think it's command/. So that's kind of just rough pseudocode for what I'm trying to do. Obviously, you have to connect that and everything, but you can kind of get the gist of what's happening. But yeah, it's real neat. So like if I run this cargo run, and then I navigate over, I might be able to call it from Postman. Actually, let's open Postman up real fast and see if I can hit it from Postman. Just because that's probably, I need to access it there anyway. I'm just gonna add a add request, and I think it's, do we specify it on HTTPS or is it just, okay, localhost port 8080. I guess I have to recompile it, but yeah, so that's whoops, can you see that? That's my running Rust service, right? So that's hello world. Echo, I think, is a post, so I need to just add a body. JSON, what's the request body? I don't know if it's just gonna let me just do that. I'm not sure. I don't know what it's looking for, what property. Request body. Let's see. I don't know if it needs to be that. Let's see. Oh, it just, what? Does it just say, okay, it just repeats what you send. Okay. Well, we know it's running, so yeah, it's kind of neat. So anyway, but that's just like me messing around with Rust. But again, it's very cool and it's like pretty simple. And then the actual like package file is, I'm just using Actix Web version 4. That's just what the documentation had. So I don't know, it's pretty neat. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at in the project. So yeah, I will see you all in the next one.